Welcome. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to create and publish your podcast. It's free. That's right, free to download. With built-in tools to help you record and edit your podcast from your cell phone or any smart device. Anchor also distributes your podcast on virtually any platform that streams podcasts, like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple and Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even monetize your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor is your one-stop app for podcasting. Remember, it's free. Go to anchor.fm to create some amazing content.
Powered by Riverside.
Welcome to the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, where we have uncensored conversations. We exchange information, and we do not do therapy on this podcast. Nope, not here, not ever, not no time, not no way, not no how. We have a very special guest in the building, my friend. Hold on, because I got a special thing that I want to show the audience, because we're doing this podcast live, but it's going to be recorded. Look at what I got, Val.
Oh, you got the journal.
I'm holding up one of Val's journals, because she had, how many you got? 3?
Yes, I have 3 different journals. Yes.
3 different journals.
Available.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this later, because this is phenomenal. I'm telling you, I can't wait to talk to you about it. But anyway, let me give you all the disclaimers and all this stuff or whatever, because I want the audience to know some very important things here. So again, this is the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. We are sponsored by Anchor. We are produced by Pen Consulting Solutions, LLC, folks. That's right. This podcast is streaming everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. It will also be available via video on Spotify and our YouTube channel, which is the company's name, Pension Pending Consulting Solutions, LLC. You know, if you are triggered at any point during this podcast, we want you to know that if you need immediate help, please call 911. That starts everything. That starts the recording process of your incident. That starts the documentation process. EMS, police, fire, whatever resources that you need from those 3 services will come up immediately. If you don't have an immediate need, but you're triggered, go ahead and look at the other resources that we offer. We provide the number to domestic violence, to the RAIN organization, which is Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, if you have been sexually assaulted. We also provide the numbers to trafficking, their website and phone numbers. If you have a substance abuse issue, whether it be alcohol or drugs, or you're a supporter, we provide 3 numbers and websites for you. If you're a supporter, we have Al-Anon. If you have an alcohol issue, we provide the number to AA. And then with drugs, we provide the number to Narcotics Anonymous. If you are suicidal at any point, anytime, anywhere, here in the U.S., 24/7, 366 days, I threw the leap year date in there, you can call 988. 988. That's the number for suicide issues, whether it's you or somebody you know, or even a stranger. That number is 988. We want to welcome to the building our guest, Coach Val Dupre, our Canadian sister coming from the Caribbean. And she has such an amazing story. I'm telling you guys, we love Val so much. Val is someone who has also merchandise. I'm holding up her journal here. This is called the Journal, the Gratitude, Reflection, and Dream Journal. I ordered this one specifically because as a guy, guys typically don't journal. They look at journaling as writing in a diary or some shit like that or whatever. And I'm like, look, Tupac wrote in a journal. They even created a book about it. All his raps and poetry and illustrations and stuff. So for all you hard ass brothers and men out there in the world, if it's good enough for Pac, you mean to tell me it's good enough for you to do it? I don't think so. Do you think so, Val? I don't
No,
think
I
you think
think so.
so. If it's good enough for Pike, damn it, I know it's good enough for you. So I don't want to hear it. And I don't get any argument after that unless somebody just hates Tupac. I mean, it's like whatever.
I love Tupac. I'm sorry.
You know, this is Coach Val Dupre. Coach Val is a personal coach. She does a lot of different things, in the realm of mental health. We're going to be talking about a number of things. This is a personal story about Val and her life. And we call this life after being born out of fear for a specific reason. Now, on this podcast, 75 to 80% of the podcast is not me talking, it's the guest talking. Val is an author also, so she doesn't just do journals. She wrote a book. We're going to talk about that book. We're going to talk about her life and the traumas that she experienced in a domestic violence situation, uh, being a product, as some people call it. I don't like that word. She is someone who was born from a sexual trauma. We're going to talk about a lot of that stuff and more. But without further ado, and I'm going to have your links, the show notes, Val, so people can get in touch with you. I got on the screen here. I got your IG. I got your link tree. So if y'all want to get in touch with Val, I'm telling you, you got to pay attention to the podcast. She moderates a room in Clubhouse, and she's a part of some other rooms in Clubhouse. We're going to talk about that. But without further ado, Coach Val Dupre.
Thank you so much, Helpy. Thank you so much for creating this platform, so people can get a chance to share and to hear different stories. I'm a resilient coach, and as a resilient coach, one thing that I realize and that I do also on Sunday night, it's when people get the chance to hear somebody else's stories. There's
Mhm.
power in hearing somebody's stories. You find a way to learn how you can yourself overcome some of the challenges in your life. And I think the beauty about listening to somebody else's story is to realize that I am not alone,
That's right.
right? And that concept of I am not alone brings so much hope. Just those words, not being alone, brings so much hope, so much strength, uh, just elevate. So I want to say thank you for creating this beautiful platform for all of us, for all of those that's been going and get the chance to actually share their stories. So thank you, my friend, for that.
Val, I just want to jump into it because I'm so excited. I got goosebumps right now. You can't see it. But I'm saying, like, every time I talk to you, and you're a person after my own heart, Val. You are a metaphysician. You do some metaphysical modalities to help clients of yours that have experienced domestic violence, sexually based offenses, maybe even trafficking. At the end of this podcast, like every episode that we do on here on the Trigger One to Talk podcast, we cover a missing person case. 99% of those missing person cases are melanated men, women, and children. It could be a kidnapping, abduction, runaway. We're going to cover the case of SHANQUELLA Robinson. Her story has made international headlines. We're going to talk about that in the end. I want to pass the mic to you because this is your story that you want to share personally. Start wherever you want to start with the trauma that you experienced as well in utero. Well, let's start there because I mean that's kind of the best place to start it based on your story. The mic is yours.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm a resilient coach, and that concept of resiliency, I had to really understand and try to learn about it a lot, uh, because for many period of my life, I've lived in that victim stage. Then I was in the surviving mode, and then finally, I can finally say that I'm actually in that resiliency stage, which I'm actually living instead of surviving because of the trauma. And there's a big difference towards of them. But my story, you know, we always think that our stories are the only stories, but I don't want to compare pain. I want to say first to everybody that pain is pain, right?
Pain,
Pain is
right?
pain. We,
That's
we,
fine.
we won't compare. Uh, it was a difficult situations for myself, difficult situations for my family, but I was able to go through it. So I was born in Haiti in the 97, in the 70s. I'm a 78 lady. And then I was born in Haiti in that time, where it was during the time of the Duvalier, which was the dictatorship, you know, the dictatorships of the Duvalier. There was the father was the first dictator, and then after that, when he died, his name was François Duvalier. And after when he passed away, his son took over, which is Uncle Jean-Claude Duvalier. And during that regime of dictatorship in Haiti, who lasts until 1986, for 30 years, by the way, during that time of that period of time, they established a group of people, kind of a military, a sub-military protectors. Like the dictator was so afraid of being overthrown, because Haiti is really known for the coup d'etat, for some coup. So because of that, he created a group of men and women, another force, a police force, a special police force for himself. And they call him the Tonton Macoute, or the Macoute. And these men and women main purpose really was not only to policing, but also to create a form of terror into the communities. So if by anybody was going against the dictator, they were in trouble. So journalists, outspoken people, anybody really that
Okay.
crossfire with any of those man or woman could be killed, put to jail, disappeared. Nobody knows what's happening to them. And the reason I'm talking about this is because that environment play a big part on my birth. My beautiful mother was 20 in the 20s in Haiti. And Haiti was not the same that we saw right now. It was actually, even though it was during the dictatorship, it was beautiful. Things were working, and people had a chance to have some great work. So my mother was sexually abused, raped, and by Tonton Macoute, by one of those police force, and that end up, and I am that product of that sexual abuse. And you know, I'm saying it like that, but it's such and that's why we're talking about being born out of fear. It's the such the violence associated in the rape, in that sexual abuse, brings a lot of fear. And the mother, they said that the fetus actually experience can have some of that sequel of that stress and those emotions up to 17 weeks. So that period of time, what I was inside of her, I was embodied with that fear. So
Okay.
that's why I call it Born Out of Fear, and it's the name of my book, Born Out of Fear, because of that. I was literally, physically, all the part born out of fear. And you know, I know that right now in the United States it's so controversial because you guys are having that abortion things crazy happening. Well, in the same time, in Haiti at that time, abortions was illegal. It's still illegal. Until 2005, even sexual abuse against women really was not seen as very offensive offense. It was
Really?
something more like something disturbing for the society, but not as bad as an offense compared to the other ones. So a lot of people get away with that. And living in that environment of the dictator, this Macoute was actually one chief police of the Macoute. So there's nothing much you could do about it. There's nothing much you could say or do.
Right.
And after, oh, but What are your emotions? Why don't you do something about it? Why don't you stop when the rape was happening? You can't,
Yeah.
it's like pure survival mode. And then I came about that. But I didn't find out about that story until much later in my life. And then I think that's what also happened when those incidents happened. There's a lot of secrecy, and that secrecy, secrets is the weapon of the criminals. Secrets is also the weapon from anything. Like, when you take something in secrets, you can control the people. So there's a lot of secrecy around my birth, and I didn't find out about it much later in my life. But what happened though, there was a lot of pain, right? A lot of pain, untreated trauma, and then you meet with different people. You know that the untreated trauma, if you don't treat it, it creates sickles, and then you cannot live. You keep surviving, and every single time my mother will see me, I was that reminder of that trauma, that she was untreated. So a lot of her pain, a lot of her anger, a lot of her inability to accomplish the things that she wanted to accomplish was put into me, right? She was, oh God, physically, emotionally, all kind of hurt, because that was a way of her to um to express those
Okay.
emotions. And I'm not justifying you guys. Like, I went to a lot of healings. I was like, oh my gosh, you're justifying your mother. I'm not justifying her. As an adult, there's something happened when you're an adult. As an adult, I'm able to see that life is not black and white. There's a lot of grays in between, right?
All right.
When I was
Yep.
as a child, I'm like, she loved me or she doesn't like me. As an adult, when I'm looking at my mother as an adult, as a woman who have experienced sexual trauma, I can now say, there was a lot of gray shades of grays in between, and I can understand why she did or how she handled what she's doing. And that's what happened when women's rights are not appreciated or accepted,
Okay.
right? Oh, I know that. Oh, when that choice is taken away, then you act differently when that choice wasn't taken away. When that choice, because I've talked to different women and in my practice, and also my research when I was writing the book, that will have will have been raped or had children out of rape, and those women, when they had the opportunity to make that choice, to decide of it, to choose it, they are able to have some emotion for the kids. They are able to love that child. They are able to take care of that child, right? They're
Yeah.
able to give some type of capacity of emotional attachment. They're able to have that some type of attachment with that child. But when that most women that choice was taken away from them, then that child become ostracized, just separate from them. They can't really have any emotional attachment. So this is what my case, the emotional attachment wasn't present. And we see, like, in Congo right now, there's so many during the genocide, so many rape was happening. And I'm sure, like, right now, Ukraine with the war, we're going to hear stories of women being
Oh
raped, because woman is always um, the effect of those wars, like the rape culture that we live in. That's what happened to women. Men are frustrated, anger, they go towards women, they rape women. So the Ukraine war, we're gonna hear plenty. I won't be surprised. We're gonna hear a lot of stories about that. So I remember reading a part. One of the psychologists, he went to Congo. Just to go back to Congo, he went to Congo, and he's a psychologist, and he's sitting around those beautiful women and talking to them. And then this woman come to him, and she said, "He's a psychologist." He said, "Yeah, you're supposed to help us deal with our emotions and everything." He's like, "Yeah," and she said, "Can you teach me how to love my daughter?" Because she's like, I can't. Uh, I try. I'm trying, but I just can't." Right? So that emotional detachment is real, speak in partial, and I think it's because when the woman's rights are not being respected or being violated. And I really wanted to point that out. Untreated trauma will do that for you, right? So
That's right.
living through that, not knowing, because the secret was so strong, I did not know why I was I was different, why I was being separated, why I was being the beating I was getting, and the words that was being saying to me, the emotional abuse that was happening. I didn't quite understand what was happening, why. And also my mother, after 9 months, she got a chance to move to Canada, and she left me in Haiti, right? I was left abandoned. The first
Oh,
abandonment was that part. And I came back, when I moved back to Canada, then with her, was still from an abandonment because she could attach me. There's no attachment. And as a child, it's very traumatic. You know, that inner child, people talk a lot about that inner child, those spirit of our childhood. You know, we grasp a lot of it. We
that's
grasp
right.
like we can hear it, but also there's a lot of those things that are not being said that a child feel, you know, and then we imprint them into our body. They get imprinted within us. So a lot of those things that happened to me, you know what I mean? Like, so I was literally born out of rape. I was literally born out of fear. I was literally living in fear. Fear was my constant companion, right? Always watching over my shoulders, always doing these things. But as I and those and then when I find out the why, you know, when you look, ask, you shall receive. At one point, after asking, I receive. When I finally find out that what had happened, it was devastating. It was devastating because we don't talk much about the children born out of rape. We don't talk much about us, right?
Right.
We can heard a lot of those evangelical Christian, no offense if you're evangelical Christian, but a lot of people are like, the faith is important, the child has to be born, but nobody talk about how we're gonna help the mother and how
That's
we're
right.
gonna help the child. They just want the child to be born and
Hmm.
it's over, right?
That's right.
So we don't talk much about the effect of this that happened into the child. Or you can adopt, the kids can be adopted. Yes, a lot of children born of rape are adopted. Uh, when they're adopted, at one point we still search to understand the why, right? And it still hurt. It still hurt because, like I said, it's that physical aspect that happened, that act of violence does get imprinted within the child as well, physically and then emotionally, you know. So when I find out about that, it was like my world fall, right? I
Hmm.
was like, now one thing happened. First I was like, oh my gosh, I understand. And then I was like, oh, it was learning that late was a way also for unconsciously it gave I've accepted the fact that it's okay that I got beat up. It's okay that I'm emotionally being abused. It's okay they're doing everything to me because I am that product. I became the problem, right? I saw myself as the problem. And then it's because nobody talk about it. There's no conversation about it. There's no treatment around it. So I took that upon myself being the problem. And we see that in children. There's no children's, you know, parent get divorced, the children think that on themselves. So it's the same concept. It's the same concept. Except when we are children like me, we don't talk much about us.
Um,
We don't talk much about us.
hmm.
I don't know if you have any questions. I know I've been talking
No,
straight for a
no,
little
I'm
bit
sitting
right
here.
there. I can
No,
go
I'm sitting here
on.
taking notes. No, I'm sitting there taking notes. One of the things I did think about, and I'll get to that in a second. So, for everybody that's listening, for those that are going to be watching this episode of the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, all 4 words, because there's a couple other trigger warning variations. but this is the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, all 4 words. We're streaming everywhere, and we're also going to be available via Spotify and the Penton Pending Consulting Solutions LLC YouTube channel. We have our special guest coach, Val Dupre, resiliency coach. She's a future author. She's written a number of journals. I have one of them here. I want to show your Amazon page towards the end of the interview and some of your other links that you have available. You know, one of the things that I always think about is when it comes to trauma, I say anybody can give it and anybody can get it. Gender be damned, religious affiliation or political affiliation or financial status, ethnicity, all of that stuff. Any human being, when it comes to trauma, anybody can give it, anybody can get it. And when it comes to trauma, I say there are 3 forms of trauma. You've seen it, received it, or given it. Everybody's seen trauma. The story I'm going to cover about the missing person, well, she was not missing, but we don't know exactly who killed her. And that's Miss Shanquella Robinson. Peace be upon her eternal soul forevermore. We're going to cover that case. It's a local case here in Charlotte. Val, how old were you when you had this conversation with your mom?
I didn't really have a conversation with my mom. Then you notice something, and you know that's what we have the journal and I have the dream part.
That's why I asked.
Guys, I want you to pay attention to your dreams.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
The sparrow in our dream. And then I know we live in a society when we're not taught that, right? The society, the Western civilizations don't really taught us about the importance of paying attention to our dreams. It was mainstream in the pagan world or whatever. But in my culture, in the Haitian culture, dreams are super important. So I was always being taught to pay attention to my dreams. When I was 10 years old, I dreamed that there was a man that came in my dream. And I was in Haiti. It was hot. And I saw him. I couldn't really see his picture because the sun was like blocking his face.
Okay.
And I heard his voice. And then when I asked him who he was, and he said, "I am your father." And literally brought me back to Star Wars, Darth Vader talking to Luke Skywalker.
Right.
Luke, I am your father.
I'm your
right?
father, right.
But compared to Luke, in the movie, Luke is like, he's like, no, right?
Right.
But the situation I was living my mother was also living with my stepdad at that point was an alcoholic and not the best person, right? Mm-hmm. So it was also abusing her. So when I had that dream, and it felt so real, and when I heard this voice in my dream tell me that he was my father, I didn't say like, "Look, no." I was like, yes. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna come and save me.
Okay.
So I built that into that savior. And I talked to my grandmother at that time, which my confidence was to talk a lot, Mm-hmm. And then my grandmother didn't say nothing. It was the first time she didn't say nothing about the dream. So I was like, what? You just should tell me if it's a bad dream, feel it, flush it. If it's a good dream, imagine you flushing it or you burning it, you're taking it away. If it's a good dream, find out the purpose of it, like accept it, embrace it, be grateful for it. But this time she said, don't know, don't pay too much attention to it. It was just so unusual. So it started with a dream, and then it was so real that I started curiosity. That part of myself, I've always been a curious kid. So that curiosity ended up asking more questions. And one day my mother, in a burst of anger, frustrations, said that she would have hoped that she would have flushed me. Are we talking about dreaming, flushing the dream? She said that she would have hoped that she would have flushed me. And I was like, whoo, right?
Wow.
When you're like 15 years old and you hear that, you're like, what why? Right? Why? I was close to my 16, and then I find out later on that it was because she was raped. So that's really what I find out by asking questions. It was actually one of my aunts who live in Haiti that I call. I get, I don't know, back in the day, used to get, I don't know if you still have in the States, but back in the day, you used to get those cards, you pay for the minutes to call
Yeah, I
overseas,
remember that. Yeah.
get those money.
Oh yeah.
I used to pay, I got some card, do some long distance, and then had a conversation with my aunt. It's my aunt who told me about it.
Okay.
It's my aunt who saw those words to me. And so I remember after that, for me, the beating, the hurts, the abuse, I was just letting it happen. I was just letting it like push me down to a point. And then that's the thing, guys. At one point, our body's physical, mind. We have a physical, we have a mind, we have emotions, we have intellectual. When all those things start to fall apart, I remember that's why at the age of 17, I decided I went on and it's a trigger warning thing. So I went on and commit suicide. I did. I didn't figure out how I should live. I didn't understand. In my head, I was that mistake, right? I was
Right.
a mistake. In my head, there was nothing that I should. There's no reason for me to keep moving. There's nothing at that moment. So, I, when I went to this, I'm lucky. Even the doctor said that I didn't. I didn't die from it. But I was lucky, and I said there is a lucky and blessed or fortunate to have an amazing psychiatrist. Because when you try to commit suicide, you don't see a psychologist anymore. You see a psychiatrist.
Right.
And then when I started psychiatrist, and then after talking to me, it said, I don't think that you want to actually die. Because it was the first time I was able to express what was happening inside of me, right? My body was shutting down before that. Like I was having this episode of fainting. I was having all kind of weird health issues was happening to me. My memory, I was losing memory. Like it was weird. My body was shutting down. So I remember he's sitting with me and he's like, Val, I don't think that you actually wanted to die. I just think that you did not know how to live. And that was click for me. Because a lot of time, people that want to commit suicide, it's not because they don't want to live. It's just because they don't know how to live. They don't know how to go through those challenges. They don't know how to see the light. They don't see the reason of the purpose, right?
That's right.
So they don't know how. So when I heard those words and they said, I'm going to show you how to live. And that's what I've been doing since. Like, how do I live with all of this? I was physically abused, emotionally abused. I was also sexually abused in my youth. I tried to commit suicide. This is a lot by the age of 17. All of those things had happened to me. And then by that time, I'm like, how do you live with this? And then only that, I also find out I was a product of a rape. So really, how somebody after 17, 18 years old, how do you move forward? I did not know how to, right? I thought it was over.
Mhm.
I thought the best was to make it stop. Just, a clean slate. Let's erase and start over, right? But then I've been working on since then the how to. And that's one of the reasons I became also a resilient coach is the how to, teaching people how to live, understanding the stage of victim, understanding the stage of surviving and moving forward, right? I'm not a psychologist. I encourage everybody to do the therapy and psychology. I'm more like the hands-on, teach you the steps to do, right?
Right.
You're not sitting and talking to me about your trauma. we know the trauma. You can share with me some of your experience, and then probably a lot of them I can empathize, and sometimes I can actually relate. But the main focus is the action taken. What is all the things you can do to move forward in the next 30 days, in the next year, to help you? Tangible action. And that's one of the reasons. So I went to that, and I've been going to the how to and the how to make me at one point in the stage of my healing, I needed to I confronted my mother, which was super hard, but at the same
Oh,
time,
yeah.
so telling you that I know. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I know what happened to you, and I'm sorry. And adult Val is able to forgive mom. The young child, like my inner child, the child Val, I haven't been able to find that that space yet. I'm not in that space. I don't have that capacity yet. My youngest self doesn't have that capacity yet, and it's okay. And sometimes people say, you need to forgive, you need to forgive. But I always say to everybody, you go as much as you want, and you wait for your capacity. Everybody have a certain capacity to do some action. So adult self have the capacity, the mind to understand, to comprehend what happened and can forgive. But little Val cannot forgive the mother yet, right?
Okay.
Because we still have a choice. Everything we do, you you always have a choice. So she made that choice, right? So this is where my healing journey is still there. I'm still going to that healing process. And healing process, it's also a lifelong journey. That's also, I want to say that to everybody. Your healing, it's not like, hey, today I'm healed. Boop. There's always a little bit more. There's always a little bit more. There's a little bit more. And this is why I'm at stage with my mother. But then badass Val wanted to deal with the father part, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Things you do when you're in your 20s. I swear to God.
I call it the young dumb era of our lives. But I think that's one of the best part of your lives, because you are just getting into your adulthood, your independent adulthood. You feel like empowered and emboldened. I'm an adult. Can't nobody tell me fucking shit. It's all about me. I feel like I'm invincible. I feel like I'm gonna take over the world. I got all these ideas, not necessarily plans on how I'm gonna take over the world. And you just had that fearlessness, which in a lot of situations can be good, but in most of them, it's like you make some horrible decisions, boy. I tell you, for
I know, right?
you being this young 20-something, feeling emboldened, feeling empowered, you're like, hey, I think I need to confront this man who was my biological dad. How did you make that connection?
Man, I started to do some research, and I was looking. I was actively looking. And when I talked to some people about it, they were like, why? Why? Why would you
Why
want
not?
to do that? Like, seriously, why?
Yeah,
I need a closure.
that's right.
My 10 years old self, the young self, I've created, fantasized about this dad that was going to come and save me. And deep down, I was still hoping that what if it wasn't true? I even though that I heard that I was a product of rape, but what if it was just a love story gone wrong, right? What if there was that little hope in my head, back of my head, and I needed to know. I just needed to know from both sides. And my I searched for him, very tight. It's very hard. In 1986, the Duvalier regime fall apart. Of course, the colonists. I'm going to talk about my colonies. The colonists. The Americans welcome a lot of those Macoutes home to the United States, and France took the dictator and give him asylum in France. So
That's
thank
right.
you, colonists. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so those 1986, those people trying to escape because the people were like, revenge, right? Revenge. It's
That's
not
right.
only the United States. There's also a lot of Latin America, Argentina, like those places, Chile.
Mhm.
Welcome them a lot. A lot of them were welcome to those places. So trying to find him, trying to figure it out about him. Did he change his name? Not change his name? You know what I mean? And it happened that, again, when you ask, you'll find, you will receive.
Right.
Always. I was in Haiti. My grandmother passed away. A woman in Haiti, like the funeral is different. There's a lot of people. Everybody come together. Everybody come to support. Food is bringing, like everybody shows up, right? So a woman that I don't know, but she recognized me, came to me and gave me a piece of paper and said, "I know somebody wants to meet you." And I was like, "Okay, who?" you know. I'm visiting from Canada. Everybody wants to visit you when you're visiting from Canada. Everybody want to meet you. And I was like, who? And then she said, your dad. I was like,
Wow.
and she
Yeah.
gave me a piece of paper with his address and phone number, but it was in Miami information, Florida. And I was like, and then I was like, what? And then she's gone. And the funny things about it, LP, I was pissed. I was pissed because he found me and not I did not find him.
That is so weird though.
Do
And
you mean?
yeah,
And I was like,
like
why?
you
And
found how did
why? Why do you want to see me? Why do you want to see me like after all those years? Where is that coming from? So weird, right? But apparently it's common. There's a lot of it's the form for controlling a lot of those by the way, the legislation is so awful right now. I'm not telling you. There's a lot of wonderful women, a group or trying to change the legislations, but the biological dad, even though if you come in, even if you raped a woman, still can find rights over the child, which is so frustrating, right? Like, could you
that's horrible.
imagine
Yeah.
co-parenting with the guy who raped you? Just
Mm.
what the F, right? So there's a lot of people dealing with that currently in the United States and Canada, all over the world, because we live in a society that women's rights and women's are not viewed as important, right? So,
Second class citizens.
pardon me?
Second class citizens. That's
Exactly,
what we
second
kind of
class
look at
citizens.
women like second class citizens.
That's exactly what it is. So imagine, but then him wanting to see me like from Haiti, why? What's the purpose? Like nonsense. So I remember going back home, going back to Canada, and I'm like trying to deal with this. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm gonna meet him. Yo, no problem. I'm gonna deal with this piece of beef and I'm gonna deal with him. And so I sent him like a very casual letter and he respond very quick. Like he respond. We didn't have email, people. Just saying. No
Yeah.
email in my days.
What year is
It's
this?
letters. Eh?
What year is this?
I was 26, 19. Maybe it was email for people, not for me. And 1999 that I received
99.
the information. I sent him an email, the mail. I sent him a mail. I received it back with a picture. He sent me a picture. And his letter was so nice and so kind. My letter was pretty like, hey, I was in Haiti. This lady gave me this information. I heard you want to meet me. Well, okay, let's meet. And then he sent me this long letter. How much he was so excited. I responded and a picture of his face. And I was like, weird, awkward,
Mm.
right? So awkward. Then there's a phone number, so I called. So now I had a picture, I had a full name, and I had a voice. And then you think that would be enough, right? No, no. I wanted to meet him. I wanted to be in the same room, face to face conversation, because I was so confused. It was so confused. I went, met him, and it was our interactions. I put emotion detail in the book, but interactions was very interesting. And I just dumped the elephant in the big fat elephant in the room, and I asked him if he remember raping my mother. And
Now, before you get to that, because I remember when we had the pre-interview, you said that who brought you to this place in Miami where he lived?
oh, a friend of mine. I went to a friend of mine. He this friend served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he served his mission in Miami as a Creole speaking, so Haitian speaking. So he knew Little Haiti, he knew Miami, and we flew together to go there. But he was not with me in that room because it was just me and him, me and my dad. I met a sister at that moment as well, which was very interesting. So me and my dad was that. I asked him point blank at one point because there was too much fluffiness in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, too much fluffy. And I was like, what's going on? Let's just say it like it is. Let's just say it. So I just say, hey, do you remember ripping my mom? And he was like, what? I was like, yeah. That's what we're gonna talk about now.
Yeah.
He didn't deny it. He didn't deny it.
What was the words that he said to you specifically? Like, because
He
I
said,
just think
the past is the past.
that's what it was. The past is the past. What do you do with that? What is the 20-something-year-old hot and spicy Val who finally got in front of this person who raped your mom, who has been this
and other woman? I'm just saying, my mom is probably not the only one, right? I'm just saying, right? Those
More
people,
than
they
likely,
only do
yes.
one person, right?
Yeah,
And they get away
yeah.
with everything like that.
Right. Yeah. I doubt very seriously if she
I'm
was
very
the
doubt it was only
one who
me,
survived.
only my mom, right? Yeah.
Right. What's going on in your head at that moment? Because I think that would have been a great opportunity for, you know what? She's not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. You know, as we say here in the States, when somebody kills somebody, but they get off because of temporary insanity. I think that would have been a great, I'm not advocating, violence or whatever, but I understand, if that would have happened, because we're talking about mental health also. And people don't understand that when somebody's triggered, you don't know how they're going to react. That's why it's so important to understand the people that you interact with, even if it's a stranger. You don't know what somebody's trigger or triggers are. And, here in the States, we call it blacking out. Not, I took some drinks. I drunk so much that I blacked out and I don't remember dancing off the chandelier and doing all this crazy wild stuff. I'm talking about blacking out where you literally kind of snap in your head and you do something extremely violent to that person up into and maybe including death. And then you kind of come back to your reality, but you got the blood on your hands at that point, like, oh my God, what have I done? Like we see in the movies all the time. So I'm just envisioning, like, what was that moment like for you when you heard the past is the past?
I was like, motherfucker.
Look, this is the Church Want to Talk podcast. Don't censor yourself. We have uncensored conversations. You say
There
what
was
it is
nothing.
you say.
What'd you say?
I said, this is the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. We have uncensored conversations.
Oh,
this
perfect.
podcast ain't
I
made
said,
for
what
kids.
the fuck, motherfucker? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, for real? Like, for real. That's what happened in my head. I was like, is he for real? You know, in the beginning, it was that sweet, honey man. He was much older, by the way. I was surprised because it was much older. He looks like more like my grandpa. That's my father. And then it was like, and that shows you even more, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was over like 30 years older than my mom, something crazy like that. So, like, this, I was like, this motherfucker, like, for real. Like, no, like, no nonchalance about it. And he just stared at me. He was a shock a little bit. Then he stared at me and said, the past is the past. Don't bother too much. Don't bother with it. I was like, what? And then I said, no, I cannot put in the past. And the reason I cannot put in the past is because I got traumatized by it. And my mother is still living with the trauma of it. So I can't put in the past. Then I remember he drank, I think it was coffee or tea. He drank his part of his drink, put it back. He sat back in the chair. And then I saw the makud came out. It was like a surreal, like watching a movie, like, you know, those scary movie, like those people like split personality, and the sudden that personality come out, or the devil come out, like you're like, what? I felt like that's what was happening. His body language changed, the energy of the room changed. He looked at me, and for the first time, badass Val at 26 years old, and I was like, shit, he can actually kill me. And nobody will know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what was I thinking? You know, for a moment there, I was like, holy crap. Like, anything can happen right now, right?
That's right.
This is a man who was in power, who did whatever fuck he wanted to do, and never had to no accountability for
No
anything.
accountability. Yeah, I was just
Never been persecuted for anything.
Yeah.
Never been punished for anything. This is the guy that do what the fuck he want to do with whoever he want and whenever he want, and he's gonna go get away with it. And I'm in front of him, confronting him, just like that. Ta-da! But there's something as well that some people will need to understand. It's something that happened when you're meant to do something. I was meant to meet him, right? I
Yes.
truly believe that, because when I said that and he back up, and then now it was more like in a menacing voice, very calm. He has a profound voice, and he's like calm, profound, because he's very tall and man, and it's profound voice, and he's like, the past is the past. It's like, don't fuck with me. Get up, like, don't go there. Right? I mean, like, it was really like a menacing voice. But it's something took over my body. And that's what I think, I don't know if it's Maya Angelou or Oprah who did that quote. It said, like, I may come as one, but you may see me as one, but there's like 1,000 people behind me.
That's right.
I'm talking to you like I can feel the waves happen to my body. I'm sitting down and I felt empowered. There were like, I was not alone anymore. I felt like, I don't know, there was so much strength. I was like fearless, like literally fearless, like knowing, like it was a knowing that nothing was going to happen to me at that moment, and I could say whatever I said. And I don't quite remember, and that's the weirdest thing, when people say in the church, when you go to church, when the spirit take over and you speak, and then after that you don't remember.
You don't remember, yeah.
You know, it was so powerful that you say those words and you can't understand what happened, but you don't remember what exactly you said. That was one of those moments for me.
Oh, okay.
I spoke, and I spoke so clearly. The only thing I clearly remember, though, it was his body language. He got scared. I saw fear in him. Fear about, like, I'm like, man, I wish we had it back in the day. I had my phone, I could have recorded, right?
Mhm.
But I saw fear. And when I finished to say, it was something like, you're lucky that I cannot prosecute you, but if the day come, man, you better freaking hide or run or do something with yourself because I'm coming for you. Like something in that space, right? It was like incredible, the empowerment. And I told him to never contact me after whatever. I left my say bye to the sister. She was not in the room with us. She really left us together. And
Oh,
then
she
when I
was
said
listening.
bye,
Yeah,
pardon me?
she was ear hustling. She
Oh,
might
I'm
not have
sure
been
she
in
did.
the room.
I'm sure
I'm
she did.
sure she heard everything,
Yeah, but
everything,
you know what?
everything.
This part of the
Yeah,
world, this part, they deny it. You know what I mean? They're still in the denial. They will not accept that, right? And also, one thing also I had to learn is that the dad that she was raised, it's not the Makut, right?
yeah,
Those people, they wear a different mask. So I'm sure that it was not the same man that came to her house, right? Or
yes.
raise her or
Hmm.
take care of her or provide for her, right? And it's something that I had to accept at some point in my life, to realize that it's not the same, right? The same way my mother was not the same mother to me than with the other children, her other children. I needed to understand that from him too, right? He had that
Yes.
face. So that was it. And he tried to contact me later with another letter, and I said to him, no, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I never have any contact with him since. But it felt good. It felt good. That was my closure. I needed that closure. I needed that closure. And I felt like um, my her voice was taken away when she got violated. Her voice was taken away when she found out she was pregnant and she couldn't go to the abortion.
Mhm.
Her voice was taken away when having me back and seeing me and not be able to, you know, free yourself from it and reliving those traumas with another alcoholic man and everything like that. And then probably not only your voice, my voice was taken away when I was on my birth, when I moved to Canada with all my, there's a lot of things was taken away. So that day I found that I was able to give myself, I gave that voice back. I gained that voice back. I was able to express out loud. And I feel like it was not only my voice was speaking to him, but there's a lot of voice that has been silent that
Mhm.
was actually spoke to him that day. So I gave my voice, and I haven't shut up since.
Yeah, and we don't want you to, Val. See, y'all don't understand something. Val is one of a few people on the planet that can break my poker face. And I think I got a damn good poker face, but I'm telling you, Val, you always do it no matter what we're talking about. It could be the hardcore, most serious, just awful stuff in the world. And then you'll come out and say something that'll fucking have me rolling. Like I'm sitting here, like literally, I'm trying not to cry with not cry as far as boo hoo, but like my eyes keep watering because I want to laugh because you always find a way to instill some humor in the trauma. And I think that's wonderful that you're able to do that because how many people can say they were born under the same circumstances, have the same type of upbringing with the domestic violence and the sexual based offenses, and then, hear what your mother said to you, go to Haiti for this funeral, get this note that says, hey, I want to meet you. I'm your dad, all of this stuff or whatever. He gives you this letter with this picture and his phone number and all this stuff. You go to Miami, you meet him, you have this fluffy conversation and shit. And then you hit him with the whoom wham. What's up with this rape, dog? And he comes back with the past, let the past be in the past. And instead of you flipping the motherfucker out like you honestly should have and could have done, because you're a human being. You're not a single cell amoeba. You know what I mean? Like, you got feelings, and air goes in and out, blood goes round and round. Anything outside of that, you're clinically dead. So you're having a human reaction moment, and he kind of sits back and says it again, and then you're like, you just kind of ripped him a new asshole. The bullying that he's done all his life got flipped on him. And that's what you saw in him, I believe, that fear. Like, I bet that there's probably not been any, if there probably has never been a woman that has said anything on the level that you said to him. I would bet a whole year's worth of salary on that. So to know that you said that to him in that moment in his own house, because I'm the man. This is my shit. I'm the king of this castle or whatever. And thank God y'all were in Miami and not in Haiti, because there may have been a different outcome. You know what I mean? So he knows that. All of that comes into play. And it's like, I bet his life flashed in front of him that moment that you were cursing him the fuck out. And he was like, oh shit. Now, that doesn't mean that he's keeping himself accountable, but it's just like, oh damn, she didn't told me about myself, and I really can't do anything about it. I really can't. Like, I'm stuck. So my salute to you, my flowers to you. You leave that place and you tell them never contact you again. You fly back home. What was the flight like going back to Canada? That's a book in and of itself. Just the flight from Miami to Canada after this confrontation.
LP.
That's the book. That's the chapter that I want to read.
There's a good chapter about it. There's something like when you're empowered, you feel powered. I was like in a high. I felt strong. I was like, yo. And then I crashed hard.
Yeah, man.
I crashed hard. I bawled my eyes out, like, because there was no more fantasy. There is no more stories that could tell me about him. There's no more what if about me. There was nothing. That was the truth. I was born out of fear. That was it. My biological dad was a fucking rapist. That was a fact. And he's walking free, living his life, living the life. Because just me, he didn't look poor when I met him. Living the life, right? Mm-hmm. And nobody's butting him. And that pisses me off. Because I know what I went through. Now I know what my mother goes through and still goes through because of the trauma of it. And this piece of shit was just living his life. So, yeah. I was on the floor. And I cried. It was hard to find peace, because what happened is that it's a form of, it's grieving, right? I had to grieve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I was grieving a dad. It sounds weird, but I was grieving the dad that I've never had. So that's what happened. And in all the stage of grief, I had to go through every single other stage of grief.
Denial, anger, bargaining,
frustrations. Mm-hmm. Somebody's to know, let's go public, whatever, right? Let's do all kind of stories that came up in my mind. And then like feeling like, why? The guilt and everything. I went through all the grieving process stages, because I was grieving the dad I never had. Mm-hmm. And at one point, I don't remember, in a few years, It took me to find peace. I found peace to it. I even met one of his son that was raised by him, and we became close.
Okay.
He passed away though last year, but we became close. He wanted to make amend. You can tell that he wanted to make amend with his dad, and he wanted to get closer to me. But as much as I love him, and I think he's a fantastic, he was not his dad. It was a good human being, like a good human. I couldn't. I didn't have the capacity
Sure.
to be that little sister.
Yeah.
And to amend how he wanted to happen. I couldn't do that. I couldn't be that for him. And it kind of broke my heart because I was hoping at one point I was be able to do it, but he passed away before it.
Okay.
Also met another obvious illegitimate child who he suffered a lot. This kid, like this guy, and he's in New York, and him and I were in contact. We're still in contact. You know my kids. I know his kids. It took us a long time because he was like alone, like his mom only had him, and no brothers and sisters. So he's excited to have a sister. So we bonded, and he's he's my little brother. So I kind of love that that connections that I have with him, with this brother. But his other children that was raised with him, nah, no contact. The only one, right? So the grieving process was hard. Overcoming it was hard. But the crazy things was that I didn't forgive him. I don't have the capacity to forgive him. And I don't think I need to forgive him. Sorry for any churchgoer people. I still feel great not forgiving him, just saying. People like, oh, to feel good, to feel free, you need to forgive. Well, I still feel great, and I didn't forgive him. But what has happened though, like Maya Angelou said, when somebody show you their face, believe them.
The first time.
The first time. So I believe him. So I see him. And that brought my peace. Instead of creating all those stories, the ability to just see him exactly for who he is. Yes. And the opportunity I have to, with the book coming out, to shed light in the children of rape. And helping and participating all those groups of lawyers and legislations are trying to change the laws that kids like me, we are the ultimate witness, and we're the ultimate evidence, right? We're the evidence of a rape. So how we can use it more in legislations to put those guys in bars and to just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this is giving me this opportunity, and for that, because I'm able to see him for who he is, that's why I get my energy to the work, so from the work that I can do, and that's what's empowering me. I don't know if he's dead, to be honest. I don't know what's happening to him, but I hope he's not, because I want him to read the book.
Yeah.
I want him to read the book when it's gonna come out. I want him to read the book. But and that's what I want people to see. Like, we can find peace, right? You can find peace in those trauma. There is opportunity to live through them when we actually let ourselves feel, when we actually let ourselves go through it. Go through it, feel what needs to be felt, do what needs to be done to go to the healing. And then I can talk to you right now without bawling my eyes out about my mother, about my life experience, about meeting him, about everything that comes in between, right? And all the little intricate details that come in between. Because, that was not only trauma that happened. I ended up myself being raped later on. Like, all those things that happened in my life. But still be able to stand and say, not because, there's a purpose for everything that happened. I don't believe that shit happened, there's a purpose. I just believe that I cannot control what other people did to me, but I don't have to be reduced by it, like my Angelou said, right? I
That's
don't
right.
have to be reduced by it, and I can utilize it to do the good that needs to be done. And that's what I'm trying to do with my little piece of the world.
I want to backtrack one moment because one of the things that you talked about is forgiveness. I have the same opinion about forgiveness as you have, that does not always ring popular. And you said it so greatly, that from a religious perspective, and I would say even somewhat a spiritual perspective, a lot of times people say you got to forgive this person to be not completely healed, but as a way to further the healing process. That if you don't forgive the person, no matter what the trauma that they caused you, you're never going to be able to be all you can be emotionally, mentally, and all that stuff, because it's like that anchor that's keeping you submerged underwater. You're never going to be able to breathe freely and all that stuff or whatever. And I don't agree with that. I really, really don't. I think that you can say, like in that situation, you know what? I'm not going to let you keep me submerged under this water from what you did. Peace out. You confronted him, you said what you said, you got it all out. Fortunately for him, he's not hurt, injured, dying, or dead. He has to live with that. And I think that when we talk about forgiveness, I think that a lot of times people go through this guilt trip thing. And I always say, only trips I go on are out of town or out of the country. I don't do guilt trips. I don't feel guilty because I don't forgive the motherfucker that, raped my mom or bullied me or, took my lunchbox or, did something, whatever it was to me, cut me off in traffic and all this stuff. I don't have to forgive that person. And I can still be cool as all out. I can still be cool as the other side of the pillow. So I'm glad that you said that, because some people, that's a hard stop for them. Hey, if you don't forgive, something's really wrong with you. And you're never going to be able to move past the trauma if you don't forgive that person. I think that's bullshit. It may work for some people. I'm not saying that. Let me rephrase it. It may, if it works for you, beautiful. One size doesn't fit all, folks.
Yeah,
What
it's not
say?
only black and white, right? It's not only black and white. There's many shades. I always talk about it. Always the many shades of grays in between. But because we live in a society where the religious portion, the dogma, the religious portions, and if you're religious, guys, like, please, it's wonderful, because we need that faith to. A lot of people, they go through some of the trauma because of the religion, right? The religious fellowshipping, the religious like belief, knowledge, informations have helped them overcome, help them go through it. What I say though is that gotta give everybody the chance and the choice, right?
That's
Free
right.
will. And we also, the capacity, my capacity, you cannot force forgiveness. And when you say, if you don't forgive, you're going to go to hell, you're forcing forgiveness.
That's right.
Because the only thing you're doing, you're bringing fear. The fear to not go to hell, then I'm going to forgive. Even though deep down, shit, I don't feel it in my heart. But I got to do it if I want to see God, right?
So wrong.
And then I
I
said,
just think it's
no.
so wrong. I just
I
think
said,
it's so wrong.
no. We all have the capacity, and healing comes. And the capacity of forgiveness, and forgiveness looks differently from everybody,
Mhm.
right? And forgiveness, people say forgiveness is that feeling of free. Well, I am free because I'm able to see him, but I will not accept whatever that happened, what he did, you know. And I don't need him to forgive me, and I don't need to tell him I forgive him. I don't need that. We don't need that exchange.
Mhm.
He doesn't need, he's going to deal with whatever he's dealing with, whatever deity or whatever conscious that he's dealing with. And I'm dealing with mine. And dealing
It-
with ours, having the capacity that we have and respecting that, it's important. And that's really, it's very important part of the healing process to move with what your own capacity. Because doing it because of fear, which is if you don't do it, you're gonna go to hell, that's not, it's, you're not healing. You're just masking it. That's all you're doing. It's like a band-aid and it's not healing. You're not giving like the ointment, you're not doing anything to remove to heal it. You're just covering it up. And you will feel at one point, you, people are maybe so like, oh, I think I forgave him, but why am I still so angry? Oh, it's because you didn't. Right? I'm not angry about my biological dad. When I think about him now, right now in my body, I don't
Mhm.
feel anger, frustrations, fear, anything. I just saw the man like a picture, and I can see him for who he is. And I'm like, okay, this is who you are. This is what you represent. This is what I can do right now to help other women, like for men like you. That's all it is. And for me, that's my peace, and that's the way I was able to move through life. That's the way I'm able to move through life. But like I said earlier, I was able to forgive the adult self, is able to forgive my mother because we have that relationship, we have that connection. I'm able to understand her because I'm able to say I forgive you because I understand you. You know what I mean? And she never really asked me for forgiveness, but I can give it to her because I understand her. I have that capacity in me for that. And you know what? The same peace that I feel saying that about my mother, I feel the same peace saying the same thing about my biological dad. So really, it's the feeling that comes with it, and I'm my radar is the peace that I found in my heart. That's my radar.
This is the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, sponsored by Anchor, produced by Pen Consulting Solutions LLC, streaming everywhere. We will be available December 29th, 2022. This podcast will air. I already had it written down and all that
That's
stuff.
awesome.
So the last Thursday of the year, folks, Val Dupre and I are going to be on these airways via Spotify, via the Pen Consulting Solutions LLC YouTube channel, and every podcast platform that you listen to: iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Podbean, Audible, just a whole host of other platforms. I got like 30 of them here that I got to send our podcast RSS feed to. I got really two more questions before we wrap up. What did you say to your mom about this meeting? And what,
Mm,
if any, was the conversation like with your children about their biological grandfather?
yeah. It took me years to tell her about it. Um, Before I left, I talked to her and I said, hey, did you ever, because I wanted to know if she had a question for him, right? Because I could ask for her. And I said, so if you would have had a chance to meet him, would you say something? And she was like, hell no. I never want to meet him. Like, you can still see the fear in her. She was
Yeah,
still afraid, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Don't want to talk about him. Don't want to, and because she came across him a couple of times in Haiti, they crossed paths because we still visited Haiti, and she still say like a couple
Yeah.
times, but fear, right? Still fear. So I, so when I met him a few years later, I told her, I said, I met him. She was like, what? She was like, why? You could have get killed. I said, well, obviously I didn't. I'm here. And then she said, why? And I told her, because I wanted to give you the voice, and I wanted to give back our voice. And then she just cried. She just cried. And that was it. There's no, there's 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 some trauma that there's the verbal it's not quite yet, you know. It's hard to verbalize the emotion. I don't believe that my mother is, you know, in that stage that she can verbalize the emotion at that moment. That my understanding of that when we met. The verbalizations of the emotions wasn't there. So she just tear up
Oh,
and then nothing. That was it. And I didn't push, right? So I just
sure.
said, okay, I just wanted to know that I did meet him and I did tell him off. That's it. And she looked at me like, you're crazy. What the? But I know that at the same time I know that she felt something good as well, empowered as well.
Oh,
Um, you know, my children, they knows that mom was uh they never gonna met the grandfather from my
sure.
side ever,
Ever. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that because it was not a good man. That's what I said. It was not a good man. And I said, you know what? And I said, sometimes, guys, there's some people you want in your life and some people you don't want in your life. And it's one of those people that we cannot have in our life.
Yeah.
And I said, if later they get older, they read the book, they will know. They're too young now to
Sure.
understand
Yeah.
the capacity. But for sure, when they're older, like in their teens or somewhere, I want them to know.
Yeah.
I want them to be empowered by it. I want them to know what the mom did.
That to me speaks volumes about who you are as not only a woman and a mother, but a survivor and an overcomer. What do you call yourself? Because this is a conversation that I have with every guest. You know, everybody has a different uh, title that they give themselves that have overcome trauma. The standard is survivor. Some people don't like that, and they've let me know what word they like and why. What do you call yourself and why?
That's a good question. You know, the book I said I was born out of fear and I born out of love. I was rebirth, my rebirth.
Mhm.
I was reborn. So I cannot really call myself anymore a victim. I cannot call myself anymore a survivor. I just like to call myself just being reborn. I am a rebirth. I'm a new Val. I'm the real Val. That's how I like to think about myself.
Okay.
I am
I
Val
love
who just has been reborn.
this goes into my final. Now, I do have two final questions. So, you are a metaphysician and you specialize in something that I'm working on doing more, and that's meditation. How and why does meditation work for you? And the other question that I have has to do with this lovely journal that I
Yes.
put for you. And we're going
Thank
to
you
talk
so
about that.
much.
But before we do that, the last question is, and so go ahead and answer that question.
The
What is
meditations?
meditation? Yeah. What does
Yes.
meditation do for you?
Yeah. Because I really believe, you know, like the mind, body, spirit, and also the energy.
Hmm.
That's part of our body. That's part of what's all around us.
Yep.
Um, I start meditating, and the meditation is part of my life. What it's been helping me, meditation bring me to the present. Not
Hmm.
only calm my mind, make silence. People say, I don't, you can make silence, but that's really the purpose of meditation. It's not really to blank your brain, right?
Yes.
It's to just to bring you back to the present. And when you're in a trauma, we either in the future or we either in the past. We rarely in the present. Because being the present means acknowledging a lot of feelings, right? Acknowledging presence, acknowledging where you are at right now, acknowledge a lot what's going on right now, this moment. So meditations help me be present. So that's why my practice, before I do starting to any coaching, I like to start with meditation because it grounds us right away and also connect us. And also I'm a believer that not only if you have a deity God, but also our ancestors comes with us. So meditations, when we go in that state of meditations of being present in our physical body, present in our intellectual mind, present in our emotional aspect of our body, and also present in energy, we get also to feel our ancestral, which is a part of our DNA. All the stories of your ancestors are in your DNA. So we get the chance to connect with them as well. So meditations are bringing me that. And when I'm in the present, I can embrace the feeling. I can have the power to pause. I have the power to follow my intuition. There's so many things that happen when you can be in the present. And meditation, I've done that for me. And I think meditations can do that for a lot of people. It's not only on a release from the pain, it's being present in my body at this moment right now.
Finally, before we go to our shameless plug section, where we're going to talk about all the things you got coming down the pike and the publications that you are working on and have out. If you, Val, could write a letter or an email to little Val, what would you say?
I did write her a letter, by the way. I did.
Yeah.
I put my inner child in a closet for years. For years, she was in a closet. Actually, the last page of the book, I sent a letter to her. It's my letter to her. I put in a closet because I was full of shame. I put in a closet because I was full of guilt. She was in a closet because physically, for real, when I was getting my beating, I would hide in a closet. So it was a place that I put it there because I did not want to see her. If I don't see her, I don't feel the shame. If it doesn't exist, then it's not really me. I can be whatever I want to be. I can create the Val that I always wanted to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized is that this little Val, that our inner child, is the true badass, is the real deal. They are the reason I'm still here, right? She went through all of it. So my letter for her was really that. Thank you. Thank you, even though I put in that closet, still banging in the door and saying, hello.
Get me out.
Right? Get me out.
Get
Right?
me out.
Hello. I can actually help you. I can help you. And opening the door and facing her and letting her out has been so empowering. So empowering. Because I realized that she used her imaginations to overcome the challenges. She has the best coping mechanisms. She overcome everything. And you know what? She's the one who never give up.
That's awesome. I love it.
The adult Val wanted to give up many times, but our inner child is the one who never give up.
Val, you just are so awesome. I'm telling you, I absolutely just love talking with you. I want you to tell us how we can get in touch with you. I know how I can get in touch with you. I want you to tell
You got my number. You got the number.
Yeah. I want you to tell the listeners, and if you're not watching this, you're missing a beautiful, very pretty Caribbean, Canadian, Creole, Haitian, this multifaceted woman who is just, you're a superhero to me. I got a thing on my wall. You can't see it because I got my virtual background up, but it's a plaque that I got from Mrs. LP, and it has the EMS Star of Life, which is a 6-point star, and it says, "Not all superheroes wear capes." And I always say, a superhero is an ordinary person doing some extraordinary shit. The work that you're doing to help other people who have been traumatized, be it the work that you do with the journals, be it the book that you have coming out, be it the resiliency information that you talk about, in Clubhouse. So you monitor this room. It's called Amp Your Resilience. What does AMP stand for?
Oh yeah, it's like amplify. You
Amplify.
amplify your resilience. How you can do that, and you do it to your mind, you do it to your physics. And so yeah, so people can join me in Instagram. I have I post a lot, and then the thing in Instagram I love is that on Sunday night I try to have a great conversations with people about resilience because I believe in storytelling, like you, Helpy. So on Sunday night I get the chance to share with people different friends and people that I've met with us about their resilient journey. On
Yeah.
Wednesday, I have this room in Clubhouse where I can actually hear people's voice and have those great conversations. We talk about resiliency and all kind of different aspects when it comes to resiliency. And of course, as a coach, there's different program in my website you can find out. And I really believe my really purpose is not only to help you go overcoming to those challenges, but it's actually for you to live through the challenge, to know
That's
how
right.
to live. You know the how to. That's my purpose, to teach you how to live, how to fully live. I've been doing it in my life, and I'm still doing it in my life because the healing journal is always going to happen. And the journals is because when I do my coaching, I used to always print and send people like for them to follow, like a template to follow. And one day somebody said, "Val, did you ever thought about putting it as a journal so everybody can use them?" I really believe in journaling. Journaling, it's like that personal aspect you get with yourself. You get yourself to put all those emotions in your head, and sometimes we don't know how to go through it, right? So this prompt just to assist you in that journaling aspect. And on Friday I do that also in Clubhouse. We go to visualizations and we go to some prompting with journaling, which I think it's super important. But really that's what it
Yes.
is. I became a resilient coach because I want to teach people how to live through everything the real way, and also to teach the emotional literacy. We need emotional literacy in this world. We need it. It's a need. It's a, it's something that everybody needs.
I'm sitting here looking at my big monitor because I got a bunch of them on my desk here. Uh, this is like my command central, the like at NASA when they have the control room. So I got my shit set up like that. So I got like 3 monitors. I got my iPad here, got my phone, all this stuff, whatever. So I'm looking at your Amazon page for you got 6 journals,
Yeah, I have a journals like
notebooks.
yeah. So they're the regular journal, the gratitude journal, reflections, and dream. I have a 30-day transformations one, which is there's a
Mm-hmm.
calendar in it. There's note taking. There's a reading portions, and then your journaling as well. So basically, for 30 days, you create a specific. Remember, I told you about the how to. You have a
Yeah.
specific um, task, a routine that you create in your life that helps you stay focused, stay grounded through those challenges in your life. And then the notebook is just the way I take notes. I take notes differently than people. People don't realize that, but I do take notes. I just only write notes. But in the note portions, we have sections when you write emotions. How am I feeling when I'm taking that note? Or if you have any questions that come up, it's just a nice way to really be present. It's all about helping people being that presence. And yes, it's a great the descriptions in it as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Happy, for sharing that with
Yeah.
everybody. It's
Yeah.
uh
See,
it's something that I've been doing for so many years, but I didn't realize how helpful it was until my clients tell me, Val, do it for others. Like I was like, okay, I'll do it.
see, folks, you got to support people. You see, if you're not looking at this podcast, you got to watch it because on the screen, I got her Amazon information up. I got her Linktree information up, her Instagram information. I purchased this book November 11th, 2022. The
Yeah.
the journal. This is the journal, the gratitude reflection dream, the lion paperback, and
Yeah.
I'm going to start mine January 1. not as a New Year's Day thing, but I just think it's so apropos because I
That's
want to start
beautiful.
fresh, and I'm like, I'm looking at it, it's so well put together, it's so professionally done. I love the quotes that you put in here. I love your signature. I love the way that you have it set up because it's not just a journal where here's a bunch of lines, here's a quote, go. It's a lot of different things. It's a lot of moving parts in a journal. So I
Yeah.
thank you personally for that. I wish I would have. See, that's why I'm gonna have to come to Albuquerque for this event that you're partaking in.
Yes, in
Because I
March.
want, I like autographed copies. I just do. So that's a whole nother conversation. We'll talk about that later because I know you got to run. I want to close with this. As someone who has been reborn from these traumas that you've experienced, I always say when it comes to trauma, if you need it, I got 2 words for you: seek help. What words do you have for someone who has been traumatized, whatever the trauma is?
Um, just a couple things, two things come to my mind. The one is that it's never too late to heal. Doesn't matter the age, it's never too late to heal. So that's, and then the same things. There's always a hope. Don't give up. Do not give up. I did at 17. Thanks God it didn't work out. But please don't give up. Please don't give up.
I didn't tell them that you the emotional freedom EFT.
Oh, the EFT, yes. I use EFT and LP. I use like a healing touch because, like I said, it's mind, body, spirit, right? And
Yeah.
LP is with the brain. EFT is a lot with the tapping solutions, with the meridians, the chakras in the body. And the healing touch is a lot to do with the energy surrounding our body. Yeah, because we need all of this for healing, all of this.
Val, look,
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to have you come back at a later time to talk about some of these metaphysical modalities that you do
Yes.
because I love the metaphysics. I've done a tapping session, I've done a breathwork session, I've done an NLP. Geraldine is going to be coming up.
Oh,
I think her interview comes up probably the second week of January.
that's awesome. That's
And
awesome. You know what? Yes, please. I would love to. And we can talk about shamanism.
yeah, all of that.
That's,
We're going to get into all of that stuff in the next segment because we just don't have enough time.
we don't.
And
It's always don't
I
talk. When
appreciate,
we have some great company, great conversation,
yeah,
it's really hard. But that's what it is. When you're being reborn, the rebirth is not, it has to be physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, right? It has to be.
yeah.
It has to be.
When we do this meditation, so we're going to do an EFT, we're going to do a meditation, and we're going to do an NLP in one interview. And it's going to be based on how these 3 modalities are utilized in helping people who have survived trafficking, domestic violence, sexually based offenses. So it's still going to be under the stuff that we cover. And I want you to do it in French. I want to hear it in one of your native
What did you
languages.
say?
I want to hear you do it in French.
Oh, my meditations.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what? I do rooms on Clubhouse on
I know.
Tuesdays, and they're in French.
Yes,
You should come.
yes, yes.
Yes,
So,
guys. And that's the
so
beauty,
we're
I do my coaching in French, in English, and in Creole. So
yeah. So all 3 of those, we're gonna do a lingual interview. Val Dupre,
thank you.
you haven't tapped into her. She is available all over social media. I got her website, I got her IG, I got her Linktree. Uh, I got her Amazon information. I'll have those links in the show notes for this episode that airs audio and video, December 29th, 2022, the last Thursday of this calendar year. Val, please continue to be encouraged and be a blessing to myself and other people. I know you got to go. I'm going to switch over to our missing person case, and I'll see you in these clubhouse streets.
I will. Thank you so much, Happy. Thank you for the work you're doing. Seriously, thank you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.
Bye, Val. We have an update to the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. We did that because we want to have a broader reach on content and subject matter, and we also don't want to be offensive to those who have missing persons from their family. And we have covered cases where the person may not have been missing, but killer or killers were not brought to justice. Nobody knows who they are. And so we just threw that under the umbrella of true crime because it gives us the latitude to cover those cases also. And again, we're still going to focus on missing persons, runaways, kidnappings, abductions. We're going to showcase a local story here in Charlotte, North Carolina, SHANQUELLA Robinson. I want to play the news story via YouTube. This comes from WSOC 9, which is a local Charlotte affiliate here in the Queen City. Listen to this story.
Rally for justice tonight. It's been more than a month since SHANQUELLA Robinson was killed while vacationing in Mexico. And so far, no one has been held accountable for her death. Tonight, family, friends, and Charlotte community leaders called for action. Channel 9 has followed every development of this case, and tonight there is a new push for answers. Our veteran crime reporter, Glenn Counts, went to Little Rock AME Zion Church in Uptown today, where friends and family spoke about Robinson and the case.
Well, it was an emotional evening here at Little Rock AME Zion Church. The community came here to mourn SHANQUELLA Robinson and to encourage her family as they seek the truth.
We didn't come to sit quiet. We didn't come to be still, but we came for justice tonight. How many of you know that justice will prevail?
Saturday's rally was part motivational and part mournful. The Million Youth March of Charlotte sponsored it and was joined by a long list of community groups and leaders.
And so it's an honor to have everyone that's here in the building to show their support, their continued support, because during, yes, it's okay, but it's the days after when they really need us.
It's been almost 2 months since SHANQUELLA Robinson died. Her family was told by some of the people who went to Cabo with her that she died from alcohol poisoning, but a medical examiner's report shows she had various injuries, including a broken neck. Authorities in Mexico have issued an arrest warrant for one of those friends, and the FBI is investigating. There are tons of questions, and everyone who came here wants answers. One of the speakers was Mayor Pro Tem Braxton Winston.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. This is tough. This is hard. You know, take me to the king. I don't have much to bring. Right? How many words of comfort can you bring in a situation like this?
At the end of the program, Bernard Robinson, SHANQUELLA's father, thanked the crowd. He told us he's pleased with recent developments in the case, and he believes that justice is coming for his daughter.
Oh, encouraged me a big lot. Like I told you, God was going to answer my prayer when I stood over my daughter. I asked God, I prayed. I said, God, show me what happened to her. You know, show me. Because I know it wasn't no alcohol poison.
While everyone here wants answers yesterday, the family made it clear that they will be patient and that they will not give up. In Uptown, Glenn Counts, Channel 9 Eyewitness.
That's the case of SHANQUELLA Robinson, who's from Charlotte. She was tragically killed in Cabo, Mexico. This is an ongoing investigation, so we always let the public know that any and all parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, again, we're going to continue doing true crime stories that include missing persons cases. 99% of those are melanated men, women, and children. As always, live in awareness, never live in fear. LP out.